This is Kingdom Warrior. I'm your host, Andrea Beam, and every episode we bring you powerful conversations with bold business owners, passionate young adults, and overcomers who have turned their toughest battles into breakthrough moments. We dive into practical business strategies, leadership insights, and the mindset that fuels resilience, so that you can overcome obstacles and scale your calling with confidence. If this speaks to you, hit subscribe now on your favorite platform so you never miss an episode, and share it with someone who needs a shot of bold faith and courage today. All right. We are here with Kristina Hubbard. I am very stoked to have Kristina on as our guest today because Kristina is like my sister from another mother. We have traveled far and wide together. We have gone through thick and thin together, highs and lows together, just life, work, trauma, all the things. And she has stuck by my side through all of it. I owe her so much. And so I'm really excited to have her as a guest on the podcast today because now you guys, I get to share her with you and you guys get to meet her too. And I'm really excited about that.
Wow.
So Kristina, welcome.
Thank you, Andrea Beam. Wow. You make any girl feel special and blush with that kind of intro.
I mean, you should feel special. I'm just saying. So the fun part of this is that I've gotten to know you over many years. Obviously, we can't cover all of those years in one podcast, but we are going to dive pretty deep today. And I did forewarn you. So I did warn you. I kind of want to start off with, give me just a quick overview so the audience knows just your business background. And we're going to go into the personal side of it too, but just give us a little bit of your business background, kind of just hit those peak things like a bullet pointed bio, if you will, but give us just kind of that quick overview of your business.
Yeah. So I have been in the mortgage industry and finance for a little over 30 years. It started when I was 12. So it's been a really long time. Some people start in one position and kind of grow into a bunch of different things. And I started as an originator at 23 years old, and have grown my business since then. And so I'm super blessed to still be in the industry that I still
You
love.
was just a baby.
It's a baby. I know. Yeah.
Wow. So you have a lot of lending experience under your belt. I know you are one of the most smartest, creative, I've never seen somebody dig as deep as you do into someone's, not just their quote unquote, file, right? Not their transaction, but in their whole life. Like, you're very holistic in your approach with all of your clients. What was your upbringing like? I'm going to go to the personal side for a minute. What was your upbringing like? What was your childhood like?
Yeah. So my mom and dad were both in sales. They did home sales. They were both self-employed. So self-employed, I think kids that are raised in a family like that, there's feast or famine all the time, right? It's either things are great and we're buying groceries or we're in the cheese line. It could go either way, right? So I think we were all taught very early that work was not 9 to 5. It was people were going to come by on the weekends. You were going to be working on the evenings. I would help my mom deliver products on the weekends. If I wanted to spend time with her, I would go with her. She'd usually buy me a Dairy Queen as a payment. But I grew up listening to my parents talk about business and have relationships with their clients my whole life. That's just how I was raised, in the backseat of a car listening to a deal we put together. So I think it was pretty natural for me to get into something where I could relate with people and help people in some capacity.
Interesting. So you knew not new, but at a young age, you were already getting a skill set that you didn't even realize would serve you later on in life.
Well, I think there was two things going on there. I love beautiful things. I love
No.
I
All the bling and the sparkles.
I wanted Esprit jeans. I wanted Guess jeans. I wanted San Francisco Writing Company. I wanted all the pretty things. And so my mom was like, you want pretty things, you go to work. And so I can remember selling day old Hostess, out of a little wagon, knock on all the doors. And it was my Uncle Willie, who's now passed away, but he used to bring a dump truck of them and be like, okay, get rid of these. And so we would go and I would them 10 cents a piece if they were expired for a couple of days or whatever. And so I was very entrepreneurial. I helped my brother with a paper route at one point. I got my first job at Wendy's when I was 14. I had to go get a worker's permit. I don't want to brag, but I was a 7-second sandwich maker. There's actually a pin at Wendy's that says you can make a sandwich in 7 seconds. And then I was so bossy that they made me the drive-through supervisor.
Is that the requirement to be, you had to be bossy?
I think it's because some of the kids that were doing drive-through put a bleach towel in the Frosty machine, and I shut down the machine and wouldn't let anybody get Frosties. And my manager was like, "Well, why would you do that?" And so I told him, and they was like, "You get a job." Integrity has always been an issue for me, so I had to make sure we were doing the right thing. So, but I always worked because I wanted nice things, and there was no way I was going to be able to have those things if I didn't hustle and figure it out really quickly. So
Yeah.
so it was just always very normal for me to have a great work ethic.
So knowing your story, it's interesting to me to hear you use the word normal because, first of all, I think no one's lives are normal, right? But your growing up experience was not the best. What were some things that you at a young age maybe had to learn? Maybe made you I don't know, was there anything at a young age that you felt like jaded your look on life at all?
So I come from a very, I don't know how to say this word other than legalistic, faith-based religion that is very much what it looks like on the outside is the most important thing. Was your house in order? Did everybody go to church on Sunday and wear clean clothes, and were all the kids lined up? And did you have Christmas lights on the house? Did everything look just so? Were you wearing pantyhose to church that day? Apparently that meant you got saved. I don't know. Just all the things that were so important to my family was the exterior. Does everything look okay? But on the inside, if you went into my home, you would see there that faith that we were being, the religion that we were being taught wasn't the way we lived. And so I think I learned at a very young age that I would have to survive any situation that was thrown at. And you don't realize until, I guess, until you do, that that wasn't authentic, right? We all joke around about the biggest fight we get in all week is Sunday on the way to church with our husband. Like we all like, oh my gosh. And then we get in there, we're like, good morning, God bless you. And I was brought up, my family my whole background of my family is the Mennonite religion. And some of the most amazing people I've ever met in my life are part of that group, but it was follow this rule, follow that rule. You can't wear makeup, you can't color your hair, you have to wear a prayer cap, you got to wear a dress all the time. And I wasn't any of those things because, like I said, I loved all the beautiful things. And if I put on eyeliner, what was going to happen? I remember I was 6 years old and we lived in California and we drove to Corvallis. This is always where I went to our vacations were my grandparents who adored I absolutely do know that. My grandfather to me was just like he was everything. He was my dad to me. He was that rock. He was that person that taught me faith, that taught me real faith. But I remember walking into their house and it was a really big deal that I had to be 6 years old before I got my ears pierced. Like it was a really, really big deal. I had to be 6. And so when I got my ears pierced, I was so excited. And I went to we were on vacation. We came to my grandparents' house and I walked in the door and my grandma looked at me and she said, "Get behind me, devil's spawn," because I'd pierced my ears. So when I say that legalistic thing was going on, didn't feel real to me. I'd go to a Mennonite camp for summer, but all the kids would come with no makeup on, and they would have all these dresses that went down to the floor. And, I was an athlete. I was sliding into third base. Like I was like, how do I wear gauchos to slide into third? I'm like, it's not going to work. But then as soon as the parents would leave, all the girls would go to the bathroom and do full makeup and full hair and change their clothes. And I just kept thinking, this doesn't feel real to me. Like what's really going on? So I think I questioned a lot I didn't understand the difference between a personal relationship with Jesus Christ and how it was supposed to look. Did I do the right thing and say the right thing and go to the right place and date the right person and all of these rules that where did they all come from? I think that's what I didn't understand. And that's kind of what ended up kind of fighting against.
Was there ever a point in your life, whether as a child, a teenager, a young adult, where you felt like you just you felt like you didn't have that relationship with God, or like you just were choosing to not? Like, did you ever have a time period in your life where you felt super disconnected, either intentionally or unintentionally, from that?
Yeah, I was baptized really young. I think I was 6. Went to church Sunday morning, Sunday night, Wednesday night. Like, I was very involved in the church. We ended up leaving my mom raised us in the Nazarene church. So no dancing, no, like, no music in church. There was kind of a little bit like the Mennonite church, but you could cut your hair and wear makeup, I guess. I don't know. But I remember things got really bad at home, like real bad, really very just some really bad situations in our home. And as a very young adult, I thought, this is all BS. Like, this whole thing, I've been sold a load of crap. And at that point, I think I kind of went running away from God. And it's funny, like, he's omnipresent, right? Like, he's the beginning and the end. He's the steady one. And as I'm like running around in my early 20s doing all the things, he's like, when you're ready, I'm gonna be here. And then a huge event happened. My dad tried to commit suicide, and we thought he made it. We thought he did. Took a bottle of I think it was Vicodin and swallowed it. Was a bottle of Jack Daniels. So it was a pretty good attempt. They broke down the doors and, revived him. But when I was called to the hospital, it was like, come say goodbye. He's gonna be. And I got up, it was in the middle of the night, and I got the call, and I'm trying to kind of put it together. And the guy I was dating was there, and I told him my dad just tried to commit suicide. And he basically was like, well, let me know how it goes. And I thought, well, that's not gonna ever work. Like, we're done. But it's like you really figure out who you are, right? And so I went to drive to go thinking I'm saying goodbye to my dad. And like I said, I had been walking away for a while. I'd been living, in a pretty sinful life at that point. And I got in the car, and I can tell you this wasn't me because I wasn't listening to Christian music at the time. But I got in the car, it's like midnight, and I'm driving myself to the emergency room, and it's on the Christian radio, and it's a Christian song, and the song is about forgiveness. And I literally had to pull the car over and just bawled my eyes out, and I thought, there you are. You're here with me. Okay. I'm not going to this hospital by myself. And it was just kinda like him, like, going, like, you didn't go, you're my daughter. You didn't go and think you're, like, doing all these things on your own, but I've always been here." And that started changing things for me. Not like a light switch, not overnight, but it's kind of one of those slow fade things that happen that I always come back to and go, "That night, I was not in that."
Isn't it? I mean, hindsight is always 2020, right? So when you look back on your life now as an adult, it's crazy to see all the times where you realize, like, God was actually chasing after me in that moment, or he was tapping me on the shoulder, or he was like yelling at me, trying to get my attention, like but hindsight's 2020, and we don't always see it or feel it in the moment. So
Yeah.
and it's funny that you bring up forgiveness too, because forgiveness, I think, for so many people is such a hot topic button. In theory, right? It makes sense, right? If you forgive someone, then you should, in theory, feel better. And forgiveness is such a tricky component, I think, to us as humans, because it truly is this thing that affects us more than it affects the other person. And yet we are so blinded to that. Like, we've got like a veil over our eyes that really keeps us from seeing how much it's hurting us. Like, we want to hang on to that anger or that resentment or whatever the feeling is. We want to hang on to that so tightly as if it's serving us, and not it's not
Yeah.
serving us. And I think you and I have had a lot of conversations about forgiveness over the years, right? It's not just any one time period in our lives, but there's been multiple time periods.
I think there's a big thing, Andrea, too. I didn't mean to interrupt you, but there was a big thing that, like, a light bulb that went off for me about forgiveness was I remember I'd pray about it all the time, especially trying to forgive my dad after so many things came out that had happened and probably should. Well, we used to say we're going to be on a Jerry Springer episode anytime they're going to call and ask us to come in and you line it up. But after all the lies and all the deception, the I don't know, abuse, all the things that we lived through, there came a moment where I knew I had to forgive him. And I remember trying to talk this out with God, like, well, he's never asked for my forgiveness. So why would I forgive him? And God just kept saying, like, back to me, like, I'm not asking that. Someone doesn't have to ask you to forgive them for you to forgive them. And when I figured that out, I found my little self going to tell him, I forgive you.
Mm-hmm.
And you can go in peace and you don't have any hold over my life. I have a beautiful life and a beautiful family. It's okay. You, I don't hold anything against you. He still never said, I'm sorry. He probably never would have, but it doesn't matter because I got to leave there going, okay, you know, that was what I was supposed to do. And listen, when God's working on you to go forgive someone, it's not like a little pebble in your window. Like it's like, like
So
morning
true.
milk, go forgive. And so that
Yeah.
meant a lot to me that I got to experience truly forgiving someone who probably didn't deserve to be forgiven, which I've messed up a lot of stuff too. I probably didn't deserve to be forgiven. And then how can I really ask God to forgive me for all the stupid stuff I've done if I can't freely give forgiveness, right? So
True.
it took me a
So,
while to figure it out, but
I mean, yeah, I feel like that could, like you said, the same could be said for us. Like, do we do we deserve to be forgiven for, some of
mhm.
the things that uh, that we've done, right?
No,
I'm yeah,
we don't.
yeah. And certainly not, I sit here and I think I mean, not, gosh, to go super, super deep, but when you think about like literally what Jesus went through to die on that cross, and I mean, I'm not going to go deep into all those details, but I've read some like scientific studies that really talk about the exact physical condition
Mm,
that he would have endured hanging on that cross and leading up to being hung on that cross. And it's like for him to go through that for me, like, you think, but gosh, did I deserve to have someone do that for me? And it's like, no, no. And it's such a powerful, I mean, that's such a big part of that relationship with God, right? Is just understanding the vast amount of love that had to be there for that to occur. I mean, it's immeasurable. Like you can't even put it into words. And listening to your story about, forgiving your dad it is just crazy to me how many times in our life we have to forgive in a situation someone that's hurt us or and or forgive ourselves.
mhm.
I think that's been a really big one.
Yeah.
I know for me and my like testimony that I've given a couple times, that's a huge part of it was I had to forgive myself for things that I had done that I was so ashamed of or so distraught over or didn't want people to know about me, and it's sometimes even harder to forgive yourself.
Well, and it's freeing to when you do though, and you go, "No, I really did." And
Mhm,
I've heard conversations that and studying about sin and how God thinks of sin when we keep bringing the same sin up again and again, like, "Well, then I wanna talk to you again about this thing I did when I was 19." And it's like your sins are forgiven like the sands in the bottom of the ocean.
mhm.
Find it. He doesn't even know how to point to it and go, "There, that's the thing. Let me go get that little grain of sand that I'm holding against Andrea." Like, it's gone. It's done. It's over, and we're the ones that hold on and hold on and hold on. My grandfather, Christian Emmanuel, and Emmanuel, of course, means God with us. My grandfather would speak. We would all be like, "Yes, grandpa." And, I had early in my career, right after Connor was born. And my son is, as you know, my children are the light of my life. But Connor was little and I was real busy in the mortgage industry. And as a woman, I was the fifth woman hired. So I was working with all these men. And, literally I had Connor on Super Bowl Sunday and I got a call from the owner of the company on Monday asking me if I was going to be in by Wednesday. Yeah, that's how it went. I was thinking, I don't know. I think I need a minute here. Like I gotta figure this out. Yeah. And so, um, very quickly, I hired a gal came into my office and she'd already been hired by the company. And she's like, everyone talks about, it would be a great job if I could have a job with you. I would love to be your assistant. You'd be somebody I'd love to work for. And I hadn't vetted her and I hadn't interviewed her. And I had a vigorous, as you know, interview process and people process. And I think I'm pretty good at picking out amazing people that I can help grow or that just have so many things that I don't have that
Mm-hmm.
they have. But at the time I was so worn from being a brand new mama and a new wife and had some properties at the time, very like just overextended. I had just overextended myself so much. And here I'm looking at how do I have all this time with this baby that I want? And I couldn't leave him. So I was bringing him to work every day. I had a playpen at work and I'm pumping in the office and everyone's like, "Ooh, this girl," and thank God my mentor, Melissa, who, Melissa, and she's still one of the owners of this company and one of my bestest, dearest friends. Her milk was in the freezer too with her kids. So like we there was only a few of us, but we kind of got it and we understood we were going to have to support each other to make this work. But this particular girl ended up embezzling a bunch of money from me. And she had worked her way so into my life that she was managing, you know, bills and she had access to stuff. Back then there was a trust with the client trust, which lending doesn't have anymore, but she just did all of these things and it was probably about $30,000 by the time we all figured out what she was doing. And here I am, like, I'm mortified. She'd stolen I had to make everything square with everyone that she had, taken money from. And here I'm writing checks to pay people's mortgages back in the 90s. Like I was doing everything to just keep my reputation and stay afloat. And she was real smart. She had a parole officer that called me and said, "Hey, I don't want you to feel bad. This was her job. Like this is her job is to go and defraud people." And, I'm like, "You're a parole officer?" Like, "What?" And so found out all these things, very different now. Now you have to be fingerprinted and licensed and
Right.
background, right? But back then you didn't. So I was so upset. I was so distraught. It took me months to untangle everything she did. And I was just devastated. And I took a trip into Corvallis. Christopher and I lived in Kaiser at the time. And I was like, I had to go see grandpa. Like, I just needed that dad, to tell me. So I went in and like the story I just gave you, like I told him every little thing, every dollar, everything that had happened, all the betrayal, everything that had happened. And when I was all done and I'm crying and I'm upset and he's just holding my hand. And when I got all done, he said, I go, I was waited for him to tell me what to do. And I said, "What do you think? What do you think I should do? How do I get over this? What do I do?" And he said, "Well, honey, why not just be wrong?" I go, "Did you hear me?" All the things I told you. He goes, "Yeah, but baby, why not just be wrong? Look what Jesus did for us. You just need to forgive her right now."
Wow.
Yeah, pretty cool stuff. So I am so grateful. I'm so grateful for that man in my life and the way he loved the Lord and the way he loved his grandkids because he spoke. He spoke into my life. With all the chaos happening in my immediate family,
Yeah.
always had that rock of going back to grandpa and going, okay, now biblically, what's the thing I'm supposed to do? So I've never forgot that. So when someone really does wrong me, I go back into that memory and be like, okay,
Mm-hmm.
well, yeah, I can keep moving.
What do you think when you think back on your life? Because we were talking about hindsight being 20. I was recently on a podcast called The Choice, and the premise being that everyone in life kind of has these choices, right, that have defined them over time. And a lot of times a very defining choice that they've made at some point in their life. What do you think was maybe a defining moment in your life that has shaped who you are today?
Making the decision to follow Jesus. I don't think there's a bigger decision you can make. That choice became very clear to me that by a really good friend, Paula Herr, who's a dear friend of mine, and I think you know Paula. Paula is like opening the window for fresh air. She's just this lighty woman who loves the Lord. And she told me one day, Christina, you're not just sitting in here doing mortgages or loans for people. This is your ministry. And so don't leave your faith out in the car in the parking lot. You got to bring it in here. And I remember thinking, how do you do that? Like, how do you, I can't be somebody on Sunday and then on Monday come in here and act like one of the guys. Let's,
And that's I mean, that is a huge part of today's society. I think a lot of people are afraid to bring that faith into all arenas of their life, right? Like it is very segregated. It's in their personal life, their business life, it gets very segregated. And and whether you're a business owner or you're working at a company somewhere, obviously sometimes those things there can be parameters like I mean, you could be a believer, but if you work in a public school, like good luck, being able to really be super vocal about your faith. And I'm not saying it's impossible. It's definitely a lot harder, So sometimes you're in situations where you're not always able to be as bold as maybe you would like to be, but it is such a big part of our society right now, like not bringing God into the marketplace, which is why we're doing the Christians in Business event next year, right?
yeah,
It is literally Christians in business because there is this huge, in my opinion, just like this fire underneath of me to give that courage to people to be more vocal about their faith. It doesn't have to be segregated out. And I think it's actually really sad when we don't use the platform we've been given. Our businesses, our jobs have been given to us as, for lack of a better word, territory, right? That is your territory. Like God has entrusted that territory to you to use as a platform, whatever that looks like. And so I'm excited that you brought it up because I think that moment for you, that defining moment, I love it when, I don't know, I love it when friends say things to us that make us stop and go, huh.
yeah, yeah. And I think it started me on a journey of, so if I'm going to do business the way I think God would want me to do business, which means that I'm doing everything with integrity and putting everything through that filter of what would he do? I how am I always making a decision that I can put through that glass and look at it and go, the best thing to do? Is this the am I having the best integrity? Am I doing the, like, that I am very serious about doing the best thing for the client, taking a 30,000-foot view of everything they're doing, whether it's my job or not, to pull all those pieces together and go, no, here, this do. We just had this with one of your great clients, one of your faith-filled, beautiful clients that really needed way more support than what we were doing, because there is more to what we do.
Oh yeah.
We are advisors on so many levels, and because you and I work with the best of the financial planners, of the CPAs, of the attorneys, you know, people that 1031 exchange, whoever they are, real estate agents, lenders, title, we have these great relationships. And it really hit me, if I'm going to do business, people I know, love, and trust, and they're going to do business with me because they know, love, and trust me, then
Hmm.
what if I create my own tribe? And I say tribe because I don't know a better word for this girl group. These
It's a pretty good word. Not worth at all to that word.
don't know. Women that we just like, there's too many women, and people know this, that work for me or with me or close to me. And I know you know this. I don't, I don't allow catty women,
Hmm.
catty people. You can't talk about other people bad. It's like, that's not part of my world. Like, we're going to lift each other up. We're going to love on each other. We're going to take care of each other. That's just what we're going to do on a daily.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I think when I realized, like, okay, because Paula's words ring true, grandpa's words ring true. Like, why not just be wronged? Okay, got it. Not everything's going to be fair. I get that. And if I can't leave my faith and my relationship with God in my parking lot in the car, but I'm actually going to bring it into this job, that means it's every person I talk to, God's going to be with me throughout the day. And that means what? What does that look like? That means for me, we pray over clients, we pray with clients, we pray over files, we pray for our realtors and our freezers and builders, everybody, gets a part of that. It means that scripture is all over my office because it is. It means that we are going to love God and we're going to do business and not in a way of like, not in a fake way, but in a way of like integrity in our heart is that we want what's best for the client. And you've heard me say this before. I will throw myself in front of a speeding bus to stop a client from doing something stupid. Like I'm
Mm-hmm.
not going to do anything for a paycheck. It's not ever going to happen. This is 31 years of doing this. I'm going to do what's best for the client. And all my people are empowered to do what's best for the client. But sometimes what's best for the client is that I'm not for everybody, and that's okay, right? Sometimes what's best for the client is not me. And it took me a long time to be able to say that and go, and that's okay. It truly is. Because when you start building the people around you that you want to do life with and that are going to make they're going to make that ethical decision for that client, I can say, Andrea, here's this precious person. And you're going to go, oh my gosh, Kristina, thank you. I've got them. And I know that without a shadow of a doubt. I know that. And so when I started getting the idea of like, well, wait a minute, if I'm going to build a business like this, then I'm going to be in relationships with people, and I'm not everybody's cup of tea, and that's okay. But I want to be in relationships with people that I want to bring home for dinner. I want them to know my kids. I want them to know my husband. Like I want to do life with them. And what does that look like? Right. And so it just kind of started evolving into like, wow, we've had a couple weddings here. Like we've done some crazy stuff.
You have done some crazy stuff. There is that is the truth. Yes.
But I wouldn't change anything because I've just lived some pretty exciting life, and this community is like no other I've ever worked with.
So I want to back up just a little bit because you said when I asked you about your defining moment, you talked about getting back. Well, you talked about getting baptized, but just that coming back to this relationship with Jesus.
Yeah.
What was the factor that brought you back to God, that brought you back to
Yeah.
that
But I
relationship?
stopped running around.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think it was that thing with my dad. So because of all of the abuse and things that happened in my family, it all came to a head in that hospital room. Everybody started talking and finding out all the stuff that was going on that he was trying to hide. That's why I tried to end his life. And so as everyone's finding out what's going on, one by one, everyone started leaving. And I'm 21 years old. My mom had come and found out a bunch of stuff. She then left after she told him where he could go. And understandably, um, and I was sitting in there with my best friend, me too. She came to be with me. We've been friends since we were 8. And everyone is gone. Literally, they all left. And I'm sitting there at 21, and the doctor comes out and he said, who's responsible, for this man? And I was like, I guess that'd be me. He's like, what do you want to do? What do you want to do? He's survived. I mean, we're going to keep him here another day, but then we could either do it's called a 3-day hold, like a 36-hour hold, or we could release him to your custody, or like, what do you want to do? And I was literally a 21-year-old, like running around, partying myself, I mean, just doing whatever. And I'm like, oh, and my mom had breast cancer at the time. So I'd been helping her with driving her to her treatments and doing all the things. So I already felt like I had kind of a lot on me at the time.
Yeah. Just a little bit.
Just a little bit. And my parents were now starting a divorce proceeding, trying to get my mom well. And now here's my dad. They're like, what are you doing with him? And I'm like, I don't know. And I remember sitting there in that room thinking, I'm just talking to God the whole time. Like, what am I doing? What are we doing? And the fact that he never left, I could feel the Holy Spirit. I could feel his presence every moment. I'm signing forms, making decisions, doing things that were like not within my own self. And I remember thinking as I was driving home, he did a 36-hour hold because I needed a minute to figure out what to do. But I was driving home and I thought, there's something. I couldn't articulate it, but something would never be the same again, right? I was going to go act like the child of God that I was. I was gonna There's a difference between I know God, I know of him,
Mm-hmm.
and he's my Lord and Savior. Big difference, right? So trying to do things through that filter of making those decisions, and I've made so many mistakes and done so many silly things, and even as a wife and mom and all the things, but it's like coming back to that firm foundation of, well, wait a minute, what is really right here? What really, and amazing when you ask God, what should I do here? What do you think of this? What do you think of me? Some of the questions I've asked him, the answers I get, I'm like, why didn't I just ask? Why didn't I just talk to you about this before I went and acted myself in a situation, right? So I think that was the changing. It had to be something that takes you to your knees
Mm-hmm.
for me, because I'm so stubborn, Andrea, and I'm so like, I got this, watch this. And I think I had to be stripped of everything. And when you're stripped of, your family's breaking up, your dad might be dying, your mom is really sick, your brother and sister just left, nobody wants to talk to each other, everyone's upset. Like you go, oh, well, this just might be it. I
Yeah.
might be the family. What does that look like now? Right. And I think that I got to start from there. And that's why I think choosing my village, choosing my tribe, this, my girlfriend's become my family, my chosen, like there's a there's a theme throughout my whole life about that. And I think it really started from understanding that you're not ever alone. God's going to send you people. If you are a person that needs human flesh to touch and be with, he'll send you that too, right? And so I think it's funny when you say that, there was another thing that really hit me really hard. And I think being raised in that very, very legalistic, like don't cut your hair, don't color your hair, all that stuff. I started going to women of faith. We would joke around and say, we're the church ladies and we're going to get a church van. And we're going to go to women of faith. We would joke around there and be like, get in the van. We're going to go meet Jesus. People were like, okay, I'll come with you, but I don't know about this Jesus. And then they'd get saved. And we were like, that was fine. Let's go do something else. But these women of faith, these women, like I thought me being me, wanting to wear makeup and nails and hair and jewelry and all the things that I thought were so fun, after my grandmother's comment, it always was like, well, I'm different. I love all that stuff. And I watched these women, Sheila Walsh, I watched these women come on stage in big old stilettos and leather jackets and hair to here and jewelry and makeup. And I was like, they love Jesus and look at them. They they're okay to be themselves. And I thought that's really cool, because it just in my mind, I couldn't cross over to believe that that would ever be okay. Right.
Crazy how seeds planted at different ages and different time periods in our life. It could just be one comment, right? One sentence, one statement, but they really embed themselves and in our brain, right? It's funny because I remember being 19 years old. I was just offhandedly working at an old roller skating rink for some neighbors, and
Yeah,
there
you
was I was like, I know, old roller skating rink, and although I don't even remember, oh yeah, I guess we were roller skating at the time. There was also, they had country line dancing there, so there was that. But I remember this young gentleman, probably same age as me, like, I don't know, like 18, 19, 20 years old. And he had said something to me that he said, yeah, he goes, you could be really successful in life. He said, but you're always going to self-sabotage. And I thought, that is such a weird thing to say, first of all, right? But it was one of those things that literally stuck with me for my whole life. I mean, obviously, I still remember it. It was one sentence,
Mhm.
and yet it burrowed its way in my brain. And it's something that I've for a long time had a hard time shaking, because it was such a, what's the word I'm trying to say? Just a flustering moment, right? Like, of, whoa, am I gonna, is that what I'm gonna do?
Right.
I don't know. So when we grow up, we have these seeds that are planted, and as adults, we battle them as different things, right? Maybe of self-doubt, or things like that. What do you battle with? Like, what is the struggle that you fight? We all have things that we struggle with internally. What is that for you?
Andrea, bang.
Told you we were gonna go deep. I did warn you.
So there were two things that happened. One was when as I said about my dad was very, really cutting with his words. And that kind of became my household. Everyone would tease and cut and kind of be mean. I remember, my mom is an amazing cook. All the Mennonite women, I swear, they get in there and they just work it out in the kitchen. And so my mom had made some beautiful, I don't know, cake or something. And I had some of it, and then I came back in for seconds, and my dad looked at me and said, "You know, you might as well have another piece, Christina. You're always gonna have problem with your weight your whole life. You're always gonna have those fat arms, just like your mom and her sisters are all just gonna you're all built like that, and that's just how it's gonna be. So you might as well just like eat up." And I didn't realize, I was like, "Oh, is my body not okay?" Like, it literally something in me kind of shifted. And I think all kids go through that awkward stage where your body hasn't caught up yet with your height or whatever. And so I went to camp that summer with a really good girlfriend of mine. I'd never been to her camp before. I'd always been to the Mennonite camp, which is very conservative. Like I said, sliding into third base with my gauchos on. And, so I went to this camp, and they were swimming in swimming pools and all the things, and my girlfriend Annie, who was just a beautiful girl, and we walked in together, and these boys came up to her, and she's like, "Oh, this boy, he'd be so cute for you," or whatever. And so I'm kinda, excited, and we're gonna meet these boys, and they look over at Annie, and they were like, "Hey, who's your fat friend?" And I, like, turned around, like, "Who are they?" Okay. I was, like, crushed. It was just crushed. And so those 2 things, both of them, I'm a child, people don't know. Those people, kids tease, like, whatever. But there was I didn't feel safe enough to come to my mom or to come to a woman, an aunt or anybody to go, "This is what happened, and, like, what do I do with it?" And so I just buried it. Like, I'm not enough. I'm not gonna be enough. I don't come from enough. I'm not smart enough. I didn't go to college, like, what all the things. And then there's this, like, spiritual warfare going on where that's whispering in your ear, well, yeah, you're just always going to be whatever. And so I think body image, always like someone's telling me I'm not enough. And it plays out in life where you and I've had this conversation before. Maybe we have a day where our calendar isn't packed full. And so we think, gosh, I'm just going to stay home for a minute. Like, I just need a minute.
Mhm.
I sit down and I'm like, "Well, I shouldn't sit down unless I'm folding socks. Let me go get socks." And they're like, "Oh, well, maybe I'll get my pills ready for this week. I'll get my supplements ready for this week. Maybe I'll fold laundry." No, why can't you just sit down,
Yeah.
read a book, or watch a stupid show, or
Yeah.
do something and not feel guilty? Like,
Yeah.
you don't deserve to just rest. Like, my worthiness is gonna come from what I produce or what I do for a living, or, it's not my identity, but it's how long do I have to fight for that? Like, the last, like, probably 24 months or so, I'm like, wait a minute,
Mhm.
hold on, I am enough, you know, I am. He chose me. He knew me before I was in my mother's womb. He knows how many hairs on my head. He's captured all my tears. I am the child of the God of Most High. Like, seriously, I think I'm not enough. Get out of my way. Like, that's not, that's the devil needs to get behind me, is that thing in my ear. And so I've worked really hard now that I realize now I have 2 children that I adore and love, and they struggle with, are they enough? And I'm thinking, where did they get
Mm.
that? Oh, yeah, probably flipping me. I'm the problem, right? And so then you just kind of keep dealing with it. But and we've talked about it. They know, they understand where I've come from. But, I think there's that probably one of those things in me for other women, that I champion other women so much because I just want them to know that they are enough. And I want them to see what I see in them, even when they can't see it in themselves. And I think that's where that passion comes from, and that's probably why when I get hurt by people, I hurt so deeply. I mean, you know. you've been on the other end of the phone during Lice Be Gone, Lice Gate. Um, when the locusts are coming and you're like, I am on the ground and people are walking over to me asking me what's for dinner. And I'm literally flat on the ground. Mom, are you getting up? What are we having? I can't get up. Right. So
I remember this very vividly.
I just literally lost it on you. Like, you're like, Honey, where are you? And I'm like,
In the parking lot.
Lice Be Gone in Emerson. You're like, what? Yeah, I got my kid has it. I have it. All my friends have it. I don't know. You're like, oh my God, get in there. Call me when you're done.
There was tears and laughing through tears and everything in between
This makes
in
me
that
itch right
moment.
now talking about. Listen, if Vanessa Eck ever watches this, her girls gave my daughter lice. We still talk about it now. And they're like, they gave it to her twice.
My gosh. Oh my gosh.
You're like, yeah, it was us. Sorry, man.
It was this was a whole thing.
But when you're on the ground and you feel like, I can't do one more thing, and then that thing happens, you're like,
Yeah.
really, God, what are you trying to do? And I kept, at the end of all of that, I think he was trying to get me to stop. Like, I needed to just stop. I needed to slow down. I needed to be intentional with my time. I needed to be intentional with my study habits. I needed to hear from him. And I was just within my own power trying to do all the things. And I think you and I have talked about this before. Sometimes I think he will just keep stopping you until you like like the little boulders that get thrown at you and they're like tick, tick, tick,
In there.
teeny rocks. And then there's like on your head.
Yeah.
I should probably pay attention now.
Got
Good
it.
idea.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we haven't even scratched the surface of half of the things I know that you've gone through in your life. And one of the things that I really want to make sure that we talk about is how do you now, like over time, right? We go through things, we survive things, we become more resilient as we get older, as we grow.
Yeah.
What advice would you give maybe to people that are like going through the thick of it? They are in the muck and the mire. And, there's seasons, right, to our lives and what we're enduring, or, whether it's a valley or whether it's a peak. And at some point, and I talk about this a lot, obviously the podcast name is Kingdom Warrior, and warrior is such a big part of that verbiage for a reason. What advice would you give to people that feel like they're down on their face at this point?
They're in the parking lot of Lice Be Gone.
They're in the parking lot of Lice Be Gone. Yeah. Or, I think of, for me, that your Lice Be Gone moment for me was, my husband was in the hospital after having a heart attack. And then my mom was being sent to the hospital again for like the 7th time, and in a very short period of time. And I thought, oh my gosh, like what is happening? What is even happening right now? And I think I turned around and I said some very not good words.
Which
Like,
you don't do very often. I have to say, you also don't really
yeah,
have to be like, I watch my mouth in front of you. Watch my mouth.
I was definitely not watching my mouth in that moment. But what advice do you have for people that are maybe in that place right now, just feeling like, really, one more thing?
Mm,
They're being kicked while they're down. How do they show up as a warrior when they're being kicked when they're down?
yeah. I think there's 2 things. One is I remember doing this Bible study with my girlfriend at church, and her and I hadn't been to a Bible study together before. And this woman in the Bible study was telling us that when you really, really need to talk to God, get on your face. Get in a posture of complete submission and get on your face and pray. And I remember hearing that in this Bible study and thinking, "What? I have to get on my face, like, literally on my face?" And I called my mom because, my mom used to say all the time when we were kids, "I am on my face praying for you kids." And so I called my mom and I said, "You remember you used to say to us kids all the time, you were on your face praying for us?" And she goes, "Yeah." And I go, "Were you being literal?" And she's like, "Oh, yeah, 100%. Complete submission on my face." And I thought, "Oh, that's a thing." And so I would say, get on your face, because now when I do this, I do it in my closet. I shut the bedroom door, and I usually lock it because I don't want my husband to think I'm having a seizure. because it is very strange to find your wife on her face in the closet. He understands it. Like, that's probably what I'm doing. But the things that come to you when you submit like that, the things that the Father will work through with you are pretty amazing. And then I believe that you really, really have to limit who you allow access to you and who you allow to speak into your life. There's so much noise out there. There's so much comparison. Like, just get on. You want to feel like crap about yourself? Start scrolling. Nobody is there to lift you up. So
Isn't that crazy how you can be like, and I'll scroll, I'll start scrolling because I'm like, oh, it's the whole dopamine hit, right, that you get. And I'm like, I'm looking for the next piece of motivation or the next piece of cool content or next cool idea. And I could be 2, 3 minutes in, and then there's something that I'll see that instantly takes me from, up here feeling high as a kite to all the way down here, and now all of a sudden I feel really crappy about myself, and I feel like, all those doubts pour in, literally, just like that,
yep.
a
Yeah.
flick of a finger, and
So I love that you're saying that, because when you realize intentionally, when you put yourself in that position, you're actually not doing anything to serve yourself and your mental health, your situation. And so when I say guard who is allowed to have access to you, or who gets to speak into your life, and I mean it very literally. If I am sitting at a table of billionaires, I'm going to shut my mouth and take notes, right? If I am sitting in front of the most beautiful mother I've ever met, that has done the best job and has the most angelic children and grandchildren, I'm going to shut my mouth and take notes. If I, who am I listening to? And I so many times I hear someone have an opinion, like the thing my dad said to me, right? Like, that became my truth. That became my filter of everything that came in. I went, yeah, I might be whatever, but I'll always be this. Or you're saying, like, but I'll never have, I'll always self-sabotage. Like, there's that "Oh, in your head, right? Who is that guy that said that to you? Who, what has he ever done in his life? Andrea, he's probably homeless right now. Like, like, what? Like, how in the world does somebody get access to you? Christopher really taught me that. Like, he's like, Now, why do you care what they think?" And I remember thinking, well, aren't we always supposed to care what other people think? Because when you're raised in a home like that, where it's beautiful, there's no leaves on the lawn, there's lights everywhere for Christmas. It's very beautiful. The presentation is beautiful. And so then that becomes the norm. And the reality is, now that I understand that not everybody gets access to me. You can say whatever you want to me, but it's probably gonna roll right off of me like I'm Teflon. Like, no, but if I love you, if you are in my world and you are important to me, I I will stop and go, "Okay, let's talk about it," right? But not everybody gets equal access, and they
yeah.
shouldn't. And I think the older you get, the more your tribe, your group gets a little tighter, because, you know, if I'm doing life with someone and I'm having a faith crisis, I need in about 5 minutes, 5 really beautiful Christians to come and pray over me, right? And you can't have that unless you create it. So
So true.
when you're on the ground, think about the next time I'm on the ground, who do I want to be down here with me? And then go be that friend to someone else.
So I want to segue that into one more really tough question, which has to do again with business and faith merged
You know
together.
way too much about me, so I don't know how fair this is. I can't wait to have you on my podcast. Menopause, the Messiah, and more. Those are the things I talk about all the time.
And you're not wrong. You're not wrong. So one of the things I've been able to observe about you and your business, obviously, is the fact that you bring God into your business every day, right? This is not an uncommon thing. I want to ask you, what do you tell the person that's struggling with maybe fear around bringing their faith into their business, using their business as a ministry, as a platform to share God's love, right? And that can look a lot of different ways. But I think fear is a very real thing, right? Like I know because I experienced it. I had a fear of I was going to lose clients. I had a fear I was going to, I don't know, get sued. I had a fear of that somebody was going to hate me. I don't know. Like I can't even, it's funny because I look back on it now and it's like, I Why was I afraid? Like, what was that about exactly? But what's your advice to people that maybe are fearful around that? Because you set an example for this like every day.
My friend, that example was set by you. I'm just trying to catch up. That's you to me. You literally, um, I watch you just soar with how you love God and how you just are completely unashamed. And it's such a beautiful thing. So, been very inspiring to me so that I can do the same. So thank you for saying that, but you're the queen of that. Yeah, I think it's very interesting when I started thinking, well, what does Jesus think about this? And asking him before I meet a client, Lord, how do you feel about this person? What is it I should know? Can I be your hands and feet today? When I walk into that office, Holy Spirit, be here. Help me notice if my employee needs me. Help me notice, like, quicken my spirit. Be there. And when you start living like that, I kind of don't care what they think because he's like an audience of one, right? And so at the end of the day, if I lose a couple followers, which I don't know that I have more than 3, I don't know. My mom doesn't even follow me. You know, how people always go, all my likes are from my mom. I'm like, my mom doesn't even, if I'm looking at that lens, if I'm making a financial decision, I'm making a business decision, I'm helping a client do something, I'm taking it through that filter. Now, is that always the best thing for me? We just had that where I literally a deal that the best thing for him was to pay cash for a deal because of the tax situation. He's like, you just literally wrote yourself out of a deal. And I'm like, yep, because it's the best thing to do. Right. And we're going to be blessed and we're blessed all the time for that.
Oh,
Right.
yeah.
You do the right thing. So, and there's many times I'm talking to someone on the phone or in person and I can feel them breaking. I can feel something going on. And when I pray about it, he literally is like, speak. And I'll be like, okay, I don't know where you are with God. I don't know. Can I pray for you before we hang up? And they're like, what? Yeah. Like, I had one lady one time, she was in my office and I said, her and her husband were in here and we sat down and had a great meeting. And he said something about you seem very, whatever, successful. Your business is whatever. I hear about you. He said something nice. It was very nice. I can't remember all it was. And I said, I am so blessed. I'm just incredibly blessed and I'm really grateful. I didn't even remember I said that. Sometimes you just say something and he left to go to the bathroom and she sat there and looked at me and she was like, I cannot believe you just said that in front of my husband. And I go, what did I say? She's like, talking about you being blessed. What do you mean? Like, are you a Christian? And I go, oh gosh, yeah. I meant blessed by God. I wasn't blessed by anything. Yeah, no, but blessed by God. She goes, you said that out loud in front of my husband. Do you know my husband is an atheist? And I said, "Oh gosh, no, I didn't know that, but I just think atheists are people that don't understand about Jesus. It doesn't scare me one bit." And so I thought I was going to lose the loan, and I thought, "Okay, Lord, well, if they don't want to work with me because I'm a Christian, I mean, okay." And not only did they work with me, but at the end of the thing, she said, "Do you mind just saying to my husband what you said to me?" And so I kind of repeated to him what I said, and he said, "Well, it's very interesting to me that a successful businesswoman would feel open enough to talk about their faith. That makes that an interesting faith to me." Now, I don't know whatever happened, but it hit me so hard. Like, you don't know who you're impacting. My pastor says that, like, when you say to people, well, God bless you, have a great day, that carries weight.
Mm-hmm.
Of God, that's a big weight. That's a big thing to say to someone, right? And you don't even know who that impacted or who heard you or what just happened.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
It's funny that you bring that up. I was thinking about a story of like when the first time like I offered to pray over somebody, a client, and it was that fear, right? It's that fear that comes out. You have no idea how they're going to respond. You don't know anything about them. You've never met them before, and and so. But I've had similar situations, and you have this. I can't explain it other than just the Holy Spirit moves in you, right? Like you just to offer to pray for them or whatever. And I remember thinking like the first time, like what if they what if they hit me? What if they get mad? Like, what if they start yelling at me? And I mean, and now in hindsight, I think back on that and I mean, it kind of makes me laugh a little bit, right? Like, but that was the level of fear that was there.
you get it. Yeah.
And then the exact opposite happens, right? And then instead there's tears and gosh, I would love that very much. I would love that a lot. Nobody's ever offered to do that before.
Yeah.
Are you sure you sell houses? Like, what?
Do you remember when Darla was on my team? Thomas is one of my best friends in the world, but she was on my team for about 5 years. And I'd be in my office doing something, and pretty soon Darla would come into my office, tears, makeup everywhere, and she'd be like, "We're gonna pray over Jim and Sally over here, Christina. You need to," and I'd be like, "What are we doing?" And we'd be, hands on these pews, couple, we're praying, we're all crying. I have no idea what's going on. They would leave, and I'd be like, "Honey, are they getting a loan?" "No, they don't qualify for anything. They're just precious." I'm like, "Okay." It just is like, well, this is part of the ministry. Like,
Yeah.
we have people literally come into the office. We had a young girl crying, so upset. And Jillian, Jillian's like the office pastor, Jillian Rogers. She's just epic. And she pulls the girl in here, and what are you crying about? What happened? And she had this whole document. She didn't know how to read it. She wasn't our client. She was actually the client downstairs. And Jillian said, "Let's go get a room. I'll read it with you. We'll pray. We'll talk about it. Get this girl to stop crying," and literally prayed over her and all this stuff. And then she goes down to the title company and sits with her while she signs this whole thing. It has nothing to do with what we're doing. Well, like, where did Jillian go? And she's like, she's doing some ministry. Like, it's just such a beautiful thing where she had been sent, one of her friends that she said, "Well, we just know that Team Hubbard, we just know those ladies, they love the Lord. We don't, you can go in there and they'll help you. They won't even, they'll just help you." And so because we were like, "How did you find out? Like, how?" She's like, "Oh, my friend so and so." And her friend so and so was a client of ours that we had prayed over. So God's just working. He just does stuff.
Yeah.
And then
Oh, yeah.
you just have to be available. Jillian calls her office the cry room and my office the laugh room because, we will cut it up in here and have a good time. But if you need to cry, you got to go into Jillian's office because she will make it. But it's pretty fun doing business that way. And we have a lot of scripture on the walls and different things. And the owner of the first time she came in after I had kind of redecorated, and she looks at all the scripture, and I go, it's kind of like your point of like, well, you're in a secular world. What are you doing? I go, "Okay, so I mean, you cool?" And she goes, "Go for it." Like, she was just like, blessings, like, because she too. So, I'm sure they'll. I've lost business because of it, and you know what? It wasn't my business to have. Somebody else got to be blessed with that business. It wasn't me, and that's okay. They're not my people. And I've seen you like put it out there, Andrea, in a way that is real brave. And I've learned a lot watching you,
Thank you. Thank you. I think we've just feed off of each other,
especially nighttime skin routine.
especially that. I don't know. You inspire me. I inspire you. See, it's a whole sisterhood thing. I'm telling you.
Well, that's
I'm
why you
telling you.
surround yourself with,
Yeah.
you get to choose that, right? You get to pick those people. And if you pick the people that you get to help them, they get to help you, that that becomes a real relationship. It's not just all the oxygen comes out of the room when somebody enters, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. Well, we're gonna have you on for a second episode. I can tell already because there's so many questions I didn't even get to ask you, and we're already past time. And so I reserve the right to ask you to come back again at a later date, and we can go down a whole different rabbit trail of questions. I can't thank you enough for coming on here, for being willing to open up and share your story with everyone. Um, I know that someone out there listening to this at some point in time is going to have the you know the most amazing epiphany or moment or nugget that they got to walk away with, and it's going to help them so much in their business or in their life or something that they're going through. I think that's where I love podcasts so much, right? Because we get to tell these stories about so much, and I think stories are therapy because we realize we're not alone.
Yeah, and you can see yourself in someone else's story and go, "Oh, not alone. I'm not the only person that's ever felt that way." So I hope it helps someone because it definitely, uh, it's not so easy to talk about that kind of stuff. It is easy with you, with my very close girlfriends, like they know all the things, but yeah, to speak on stuff, some of it's very tender, like it's
Oh
very
yeah.
tender stuff in my heart. So I'm prayed a lot before today to just go, "Okay, Lord, let me just say whatever you want me to say." So hopefully it landed well.
I love it so much. So you promise to come back again?
100% will come back.
See, I got it on recording. So now I have witnesses. My gosh. All right. Well, until next time, I love you.